I want to show how you can also practice. I know many of you feel the same way. Sometimes you try to say a word, but it comes out wrong. You feel embarrassed, but that is normal. Do not give up. Together, we can find a way to speak clearly and with confidence. When I first started to learn English, I thought pronunciation was easy. I thought I only needed to read the word and say it. Very soon, I found that English words are not always pronounced the way they are written. This made me confused. For example, the word though looks different from through, but they sound very different. Cough and bow look almost the same, but they are said in strange ways. I realized I could not trust spelling alone. I needed to listen carefully to how native speakers said the words. Then I needed to copy them, like a shadow. In the beginning, my brain did not hear the small differences. In my own language, those sounds did not exist. When I tried to say words like ship and sheep, they both sounded the same from my mouth. I could not understand why. Then one teacher told me that my ear was not trained to hear the difference. She gave me a simple exercise. She said, "Listen to both words one after the other. Say ship, sheep, ship, sheep. Try to notice the long sound in sheep and the short sound in ship." At first, I still could not hear it, but after many days of listening and repeating, one day my brain clicked. Suddenly, I could hear the small change. After that, it became easier to say the words correctly. This taught me something important. Before your mouth can pronounce a sound, your ear must first learn to hear it. This is the first big step in pronunciation. Another problem I had was with the th sound, like in the words think or this. In my language, there was no sound where you put your tongue between your teeth. I always said sink instead of think. I always said dis instead of this. People would laugh. I felt bad. Then I learned that to make the sound, I needed to relax. I put my tongue gently between my teeth. I blew air. It was strange. It felt funny, but little by little it became normal. Now I can say it without thinking. This shows that even if a sound is new, your mouth can learn new habits. You must practice slowly and often. There were also times when I thought I was saying words correctly, but people did not understand me. I did not know why. Then I learned that stress and rhythm are also part of pronunciation. In English, some syllables are strong and others are weak. If you say the wrong syllable strongly, the whole word can sound strange. For example, if you say photograph instead of photograph, the listener may be confused. Pronunciation is not only about sounds, it is also about music. English has its own music that you must follow. The best way to feel this music is to listen to native speakers and repeat after them. That is why listening every day is so important. Sometimes I watched movies. Sometimes I listened to songs. I tried to copy the way people spoke. It was fun. Slowly my pronunciation improved. I was not only learning with my head, I was also training my ear and my mouth together. It was like a sport. That is the secret. Pronunciation is not only knowledge, it is muscle memory. Your mouth must move in a new way. Your tongue must find new positions. This needs practice again and again until it feels natural. Many learners ask me, Ariel, how can I pronounce words correctly? My answer is always the same. First, you must listen. Then you must repeat. Then you must compare. You must not be afraid of mistakes. Mistakes are your teachers. Every time you say something wrong, you learn where the problem is. That is how you grow. When I was practicing, I sometimes recorded my own voice and listened. I compared it with native speakers. At first, I did not like my voice. I thought it sounded strange. Then I realized this was a powerful tool. When you hear yourself, you notice what is wrong. Then you can fix it. Each time you fix one small thing, your pronunciation becomes better. This gives you more confidence. So, my friends, do not worry if people do not understand you now. Do not worry if your words come out wrong. With patience and practice, you can change. I am here to guide you step by step. When I practiced more, I started to see a new problem. Sometimes I could say a word alone, and it sounded fine. But when I spoke in a sentence, the word sounded different. I learned that in English, words often change their sound when they are connected. For example, the phrase want to often becomes wanna. The phrase going to often becomes gonna. At first, this confused me. I thought I was saying the words wrong. But later I discovered that native speakers also say them this way in fast speech. This taught me that pronunciation is not only about single words, it is also about how words join together. If you only practice single words, you may still struggle in real conversation. That is why I began to practice with full sentences. I listen lip. For the V sound, it is the same position, but you must use your voice. When I practiced in the mirror, I saw that sometimes my mouth was not in the right place. That is why the sound came out wrong. Once I fixed the position, the sound became better. This simple trick helped me a lot. One of my biggest mistakes in the beginning was thinking that fast speech means good pronunciation. I tried to speak very fast to sound like a native, but this was not the right way. When I spoke too fast, my sounds became unclear. People could not understand me. I learned that clear pronunciation is more important than speed. It is better to speak slowly and clearly than to speak fast and wrong. Over time, your speed will improve naturally, but clarity must always come first. I also noticed that sometimes my brain wanted to translate from my language. This made pronunciation harder. For example, in my language, the letter R sounds very strong. So when I saw an R in English, I said it the same way. But in English, the R sound is different. It is softer. My translation habit was making me wrong. So I told myself to stop thinking in my language. I tried to think in English only. I told myself, this sound is new. Do not connect it to my old language. Slowly, this helped me build new habits. There was another thing that helped me a lot. I listened to myself reading books aloud. I chose simple books with easy words. I read one page out loud every day. I recorded my voice and compared it with an audiobook. Sometimes I noticed big differences. At first, this made me sad. But then I told myself, this is good. Now I know what to fix. I would listen to one sentence from the audiobook. Then I repeated it until my sentence sounded the same. This was not easy, but it was powerful. With this practice, I learned not only sounds, but also rhythm and intonation. Little by little, my pronunciation improved. I still made mistakes, but people started to understand me more. When someone understood me the first time, I felt happy. I felt more confident. That gave me more energy to practice again. It became like a cycle. Practice gave me confidence. Confidence gave me motivation. Motivation gave me more practice. And with more practice, my pronunciation became even better. So, my friends, remember this. Pronunciation is not magic. It is not luck. It is practice. If you listen, repeat, compare, and try again every day, you will improve. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be clear. And with time, you will be clear. One day, I asked myself a simple question. Why do children learn pronunciation faster than adults? I thought about it for a long time. Then I realized that children are not afraid of mistakes. They just listen and copy. They do not care if they sound silly. They repeat again and again until the sound becomes natural. Adults are different. We think too much. We want to be perfect. We feel shy if we say something wrong. This fear slows us down. I learned that to improve pronunciation, I must be more like a child. I must play with sounds. I must laugh at my mistakes. I must not stop because of fear. When I accepted this idea, my practice became lighter. I enjoyed it more. I felt free to try, even if my words sounded strange. And slowly, that freedom helped me improve faster. I also found that listening every day is more powerful than practicing only once in a while. At first, I thought one long practice session was enough. I would practice for 1 hour on Sunday, then wait a whole week. But I saw little progress. Later, I changed my plan. I practiced for 10 minutes every day. Just 10 minutes. Sometimes I listened to words while walking. Sometimes I repeated sentences while cooking. These small moments made a big change. My brain started to recognize sounds more easily. My mouth remembered how to move. Pronunciation became part of my and heard a new word. I paused and repeated it. If I heard someone on the street say something, I copied it quietly to myself. These small moments became secret lessons. My day was full of practice. I did not wait for a special study time. I used every chance. This made pronunciation part of my life, not just part of my study. I also learned to focus on linking sounds. In English, words often connect. For example, in the sentence, I want to eat it, many speakers say, I want to eat it. Or in turn off the light, the sounds connect and become turn off the light. At first, I thought people were speaking too fast. I thought they were skipping words. But then I realized they were just linking sounds. Once I understood this, I began to copy it. At first it was difficult, but later it felt natural. Linking sounds made my English smoother. It also helped me understand native speakers better. Another challenge was accents. English has many accents: American, British, Australian, and more. At first, I did not know which accent to follow. Sometimes I mixed them. My teacher told me, it is okay to mix at the start. Just focus on being clear. This advice helped me relax. I stopped worrying about sounding exactly like one accent. I focused on clarity. Later, as I practiced more, I chose the accent I liked best. But the main goal was always the same: clear pronunciation. One powerful practice was listening carefully to short phrases many times. I would choose one short sentence like, "How are you doing today?" I listened again and again. Then I repeated again and again. I tried to copy the exact sound, the rhythm, and the intonation. At first, I sounded different. But after many tries, I became closer. This type of deep practice gave me good results. It was better than trying to practice too many things at once. There were also times when I needed to relax. If I practiced too much, my mouth became tired. My brain became tired, so I learned to take breaks. Rest is also part of learning. When I rested, my brain had time to process the new sounds. Then, when I practiced again, I was stronger. Balance is important. You must work hard, but you must also rest. One day, I recorded myself speaking for 5 minutes. I just talked about my day in English. When I listened later, I felt shocked. I still had many mistakes, but I also noticed progress. My words were clearer than before. My stress and rhythm were better. I smiled because I could hear the improvement. This gave me energy to continue. Recording yourself is powerful. It shows you the truth. It shows your weak points, but it also shows your progress. Both are important. Sometimes I practiced with tongue exercises. For example, to make the R sound, I practiced moving my tongue back. To make the L sound, I touched my tongue to the top of my mouth. These small exercises trained my mouth muscles. At first, I felt silly doing them, but they worked. My mouth became more flexible. My sounds became clearer. Pronunciation is not only about your brain, it is also about your muscles. I also noticed that listening to myself reading the same text again and again made a big difference. On day 1, I read slowly and made many mistakes. On day 2, I read the same text again. It was easier. On day 3, I read it once more. It became smoother. Repetition is powerful. The more you repeat, the more natural the sounds become. So, my friends, remember this: pronunciation is not a quick fix. It is a daily practice. It is listening. It is repeating. It is shadowing. It is singing. It is recording. It is linking. It is resting. All of these things together make your pronunciation better. Do not give up. Do not think it is too late. Every day you practice, you take one more step forward. One day you will look back and see how far you have come. That is the reward for your effort. One day, I joined a small speaking group. We met online every week. At first, I was very shy. I was afraid that other people would laugh at my pronunciation, but They did not laugh. They were kind. They also had problems with sounds. We practiced together. Sometimes we read stories. Sometimes we repeated sentences after a native speaker. Sometimes we just talked about daily life. Every meeting was a chance to use English. The more I spoke, the more comfortable I felt. I began to see that practice with people is very different from practice alone. When you speak with others, you must listen, think, and answer quickly. This makes your pronunciation stronger. It also makes your confidence grow. In the group, one friend taught me an important trick. He said, "Do not only focus on single words. Focus on phrases I asked him why." He explained, in real life, people do not say words one by one. They say phrases together. If you practice phrases, you will sound more natural. I followed his advice. Instead of only repeating one word like book, I practiced phrases like a good book or read a book. This helped me connect sounds smoothly. It also helped me speak faster without losing clarity. Another thing I discovered was the power of rhythm. English is not only about sounds, it is about music. Some words are strong and some words are weak. For example, in the sentence, "I am going to the market," the strong words are going and market. The small words are softer. This pattern creates rhythm. At first, I did not understand this, but when I listened to songs, I started to notice the rhythm of speech. I copied it. Slowly, my English sounded less robotic. It sounded more natural, like music. Rhythm became my friend. I also paid attention to stress in long words. English has many long words, like information or education. If you put the stress on the wrong syllable, people may not understand. So I learned to check the stress when I learned new words. Sometimes I looked in the dictionary. Sometimes I listened to the word online. Then I repeated it many times. Information, information, information. Practice like this made me sure me catch the rhythm of English. It also trained me to speak faster without losing pronunciation. I shadowed podcasts, movies, and speeches. Sometimes I even shadowed simple conversations. Each time I felt my mouth becoming quicker and my ears becoming sharper. Shadowing became one of my favorite methods. There were also days when I recorded my voice reading news articles. Then I compared my recording with the original speaker. At first, the difference was very big. My speech was flat, and the native speaker had more stress and emotion. But instead of feeling sad, I used the difference as a guide. I tried again. I changed my tone. I moved my voice up and down. With time, my recording started to sound closer to the original. This made me feel proud. Recording myself was scary, but it was also very powerful. I also learned that pronunciation is not only about sounds, it is about confidence. If you are nervous, your voice shakes. If you are shy, you speak too softly. People cannot hear you. So I practiced speaking loudly. I read books aloud in my room. I gave speeches to my mirror. I trained myself to use a strong voice. Slowly, I felt more brave. Confidence is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Another secret I discovered was to connect learning with daily life. For example, when I saw an English word on a sign, I stopped and said it aloud. When I bought food, I practiced saying the names in English. When I cooked, I described each step in English. Cut the onion. Boil the water. Add the rice. These small actions made pronunciation part of my daily routine. I did not need extra time. I used normal life as my classroom. Sometimes I made mistakes in front of people. I remember one time I said beach, but it sounded like a bad word. Everyone laughed. I felt embarrassed. But later, I realized that this mistake was a gift. It showed me the importance of long vowels. Beach has a long E. Without the long sound, it becomes another word. After that, I always paid attention to long and short vowels. Mistakes like this taught me lessons I never forgot. I also noticed that stress changes meaning in sentences. For example, I did not say he stole the money. If you stress different words, the meaning changes. Stress on I means someone else said it. Stress on he means another person stole it. This discovery opened my eyes. English is not only about words, it is about which word you push with your voice. I practiced by stressing different words in sentences. It made my speech more expressive and more correct. Over time, my ear became sharper. I could hear the difference between ship and sheep, full and fool, live and leave. At first, they sounded the same, but with constant listening, the difference became clear. This gave me hope. I realized that even if I cannot hear something today, I will hear it tomorrow if I keep training. My ears just need time, like my mouth. One thing I told myself often was, do not aim for perfection, aim for progress. If you wait to be perfect, you will never speak. But if you speak with small mistakes, you will learn faster. I gave myself permission to sound funny. I gave myself permission to be wrong. And because of this, I improved. Freedom from fear is very important. Without freedom, your mouth stays closed. With freedom, your mouth opens. And when your mouth opens, your English grows. I also learned to focus on one problem at a time. If I tried to fix everything at once, I became confused. So I chose one sound like teeth. For 1 week, I practiced te. I used it in words and sentences. I repeated it again and again. Only when I felt comfortable, I moved to another sound. This small focus gave me faster results. It is like climbing a mountain step by step. If you try to jump, you may fall, but if you walk slowly, you reach the top. At the end of each day, I remembered one simple truth. Pronunciation is a journey. It is not finished in 1 month. It is not finished in 1 year. It grows with you as you grow. Every sound you practice is a step forward. Every mistake is a lesson. Every success is a light on the road. The journey never ends. But the longer you walk, the stronger you become. One morning I decided to try something new. I stood in front of the mirror and read a poem in English. At first, I felt strange because I never read poems before. But as I read, I noticed something. Poems are full of rhythm, stress, and intonation. They are not flat. They rise and fall like waves. Reading poems gave me a chance to practice melody in English. I repeated each line slowly. I paid attention to the strong words. I let my voice move up and down. After a few weeks of reading poems, my speech became smoother and more colorful. I learned that pronunciation is not just about being correct. It is also about being expressive. Later, I tried acting small scenes from movies. I chose my favorite characters. I copied their words and their feelings. I tried to sound like them. This was fun because it felt like playing. I was not only learning sounds, I was learning emotions and body language. Acting showed me that pronunciation connects with the whole body. When I moved my hands, my voice also changed. When I smiled, my pronunciation was brighter. When I was serious, my sounds became stronger. Pronunciation is alive. It lives in the way you move, the way you feel, and the way you express yourself. Sometimes I read the same story many times. The first time, I focused only on sounds. The second time, I focused on stress. The third time, I focused on rhythm. Reading again and again made me notice new things. At first, it was boring, but later, I realized that each repetition gave me more control. Just like a dancer repeats the same steps, or a musician repeats the same song, a learner repeats words to master them. Repetition is the heart of pronunciation. Without repetition, progress is slow. With repetition, your growth is strong. I also practiced by leaving voice messages for myself. I used a small app on my phone. I spoke about my day. I described what I was doing. I talked about my plans. Later, I listened to the message again. Sometimes I laughed at my mistakes. Sometimes I was surprised at how good I sounded. Recording messages helped me see my progress. It gave me proof that I was moving forward. Even small changes became clear when I listened to old recordings. This made me proud. It also motivated me to continue. Another activity I enjoyed was listening to short English stories before sleeping. I closed my eyes. I focused on the sounds. I did not try to understand every word. I just let the sounds enter my ears. I listened to the melody, the rhythm, the stress. I let my brain relax. This practice was like food for my ears. It trained me even when I was tired. The next morning, I felt that English sounds were more familiar. Listening before sleep was a gentle way to improve. Sometimes I challenged myself with hard words. For example, through, though, thought, and tough. These words look similar, but they sound different. At first, they confused me. I mixed them all the time, but I practiced each one slowly. I repeated them in sentences. I wrote them down and read them aloud. After many days, I finally got them right. This experience taught me that difficult words are like puzzles. They look impossible at first, but if you stay patient, you solve them. I also enjoyed practicing minimal pairs. Minimal pairs are two words that differ by only one sound, like bat and pat, or ship and sheep. Practicing minimal pairs trained my ears and my mouth at the same time. At first, I could not hear the difference. Changed my pronunciation. I learned that sometimes we need feedback from others. We cannot see all our mistakes by ourselves. Feedback is a mirror that shows us what we cannot see. Over time, I began to love the process. Pronunciation was no longer a problem. It was a game, a song, a journey. I saw it everywhere, in music, in stories, in daily life. I was not afraid of mistakes. I welcomed them. I was not shy to practice. I was excited. I realized that pronunciation is not only about English. It is about confidence, patience, and joy.